Hi, I'm Stephen Anstey, a federal regulatory attorney and lobbyist at Kilpatrick, and today I'm standing outside the Treasury building to give you an update on federal government developments. So, there's a lot that's been going on recently in the federal government, but today we're going to talk about federal funding, tariffs, and reconciliation. So as far as federal funding, since the Trump administration began, there have been freezes and terminations of federal funding, which includes grants, loans, and contracts. They primarily targeted funding from the Inflation Reduction Act and Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and certain agencies at the beginning of the administration. But a couple weeks ago, the Trump administration issued a new executive order that significantly expands the scope of federal funding that can be targeted by the government. The executive order requires each agency in the next 30 days to review all federal grants, contracts, and loans, and where possible to terminate or renegotiate these funding mechanisms that do not meet the requirements or policies of the new administration. This is a very significant change in how the government is looking at these funding mechanisms, and anybody impacted by or that benefits from federal grants, loans, or contracts should pay close attention to this executive order and frankly should read it when you get a second. In addition to federal funding, tariffs has obviously been a primary focus of the new administration. Last week, we saw significant changes as far as tariffs on Mexico and Canada, as well as China. And we've seen discussions on different tariffs that are product-specific, like copper, aluminum, steel, and most recently, lumber and timber products. It's best to think of tariffs by the type of tariff they are. So there's country-specific tariffs, which are the ones we're talking about with Mexico, China, and Canada. Those are for funding purposes and potentially for tax-raising purposes, but they can also be a point of negotiation. There's also product-specific tariffs, like the ones I referenced, for aluminum, steel, copper, timber, and then potentially those are going to be expanded or new tariffs created for semiconductors, agricultural products or equipment, and there's a number of other products that have been targeted by the administration. And then the third type is reciprocal tariffs. Those are going to go into effect in April, and as we've discussed in previous videos, those are tariffs that the U.S. will set by country and potentially by product in response to tariffs of another country, as well as actions those countries take that harm American trade, like subsidies, value-added tax, and really anything that limits trade of U.S. goods in another country. The third thing I want to talk about is reconciliation. Reconciliation is a broad piece of, actually it's a legislative tool that the government's considering utilizing in order to pass new Trump tax credits and to also rescind or revise or remove federal funding that the government currently uses. The target is $4.5 trillion in tax credits and other legislative actions by the Trump administration and $2 trillion in tax cuts. The blueprint for it passed the House and is now being considered in the Senate, but Congress will now determine what specific funding needs to be removed and frankly how the overall bill will take place. This will happen over the next several months and its impacts will be considerable and growing as the bill becomes more of a priority for the administration, and it's already being heavily lobbied and heavily affected in Congress. There's a lot going on. We're going to continue to keep you posted as we learn more about what the administration is doing and Congress takes further action. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Stephen Anstey at Kilpatrick, or check us out our website. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend and talk to you soon. Take care.